really got to try on that left-hand side. What happened?
Oh, but I've gone up and over and bloody head over biscuit. It wasn't enough stability there for myself, but no, I was busting for a bit of meat this game. It didn't seem to work out.
Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth podcast, the weekly show for news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more, all about the world of rugby. My name is David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. If you'd like to get in touch, I'm on Blue Sky @ofscrum, and you can always just drop an email to thescrumoftheearth@gmail.com. Well, it was another blockbuster weekend, so why don't we get this show on the road? Starting, as always, with current updates. Once again, don't have a ton to report from Scrum HQ here. One cool little tidbit, though. Regular listeners will recall last year when my family and I became the 500,000th ticket buyers for the Worcester Red Sox, our local minor league baseball team. That meant we got like a big swag bag full of merch, some signed baseballs and cards, upgrade to the luxury box, and now it turns out the gifts keep coming. This coming season, they've invited us to attend the opening day in the coveted and kind of expensive seats behind home plate. Our first reaction was totally psyched, and then we kind of realized, oh wait, opening day is going to be freezing. And I looked it up, and the game starts like an hour before my son's bedtime. So just on the off chance, we reached out to them and we're like, hey, any chance we can accept your offer for a different day? And they were like, yeah, no problem. So we've got matinee tickets for a Sunday in late May, and they threw in an extra ticket so my son can bring a buddy with him. Woo Sox, once again, you have outdone yourselves. This time, I promise not to show up wearing rugby merch. Well, I mean, promise might be a bit of a strong word.
It's too good. It's too good. People have to know.
Yes, Isa, it is good news this week as high-profile former players are coming out to throw as much dirt as they can at English rugby. Quoting here from the BBC, quote, former captain Will Carling has questioned the quality and experience of England's current coaching setup, suggesting it is preventing the team reaching their full potential. England recovered from an opening round defeat by Ireland with dramatic one-point wins over France and Scotland, but have still been criticized for their style of play so far in Six Nations. Quote, we do have some talented players, there's no doubt, and maybe we're seeing a slightly restricted version of them, Carling told BBC Radio 4's Today program. You look at the caliber of the England coaching team and you have to question whether that's the best we can put out there. Some of them are learning, some of them are very young and maybe lack the experience at test level. Maybe that's what we're seeing impact on the players, unquote. You gotta love it when people start hurling mud like this, especially when the team looks like they're doing pretty well. Of course, this story is obviously from last week. Of course, they lost by small margins in the fall and people were ready to panic. Now they're winning by small margins and people are still ready to panic. I love that the course doesn't end. It's so great. Great stuff. Former captain Will Carling. Okay, that of course brings us to our reviews this week. It was the penultimate round of the 2025 men's Six Nations. My expectations ran from a huge eye roll, England versus Italy, a small knot of dread in my stomach, Scotland, Wales, and legitimate excitement, Ireland, France. If you look at France's 2 wins this year before this game, you'd think that they were a much better team than Ireland, but then you look at the loss to England and you wonder if they could possibly finish higher than 5th. This weekend surely would shed some light on the true natures of these teams. That means, of course, Ireland versus France was your game of the week, and it was also the first fixture on the schedule. Turned into an absolute classic, at least if you were rooting for Les Bleus. So after a frenetic opening where they were starved completely of possession, they ran away with it literally at times. My guy, Louis Bielbarré, he nabbed a brace in the 27-42 victory, but it was Damien Penaud flying between the posts to score that really broke the camel's back later. The French fans, man, so good. They were out in full force. The refrain of La Marseillaise ringing out through the stands as they put the game out of reach. And as they said on comms, absolutely nothing seemed to be going right for the Irish. Jack Conan, though, I thought he had huge impact off the bench for them, but Bundy Aki was basically invisible. Prendergast had a roller coaster, I guess we could say. He caught a lot of guff from the comms during the match, but got to give him at least credit for nailing that penalty from smack on midfield. That was a crazy strike. Biggest news from this game, though, obviously, apart from the power shift on the table, was the sight of Antoine Dupont leaving after an Ireland player fell on the side of his knee. He did not look happy as he was helped off. He wasn't the only former player of the year to leave the field injured this weekend, but more on that soon. Earlier today, I saw that the injury is torn cruciate ligaments and is season ending. What a blow. Lubebe, he got player of the match honors on the day, but for me, it probably should have gone to Paul Boudahan, whose name I've never actually said out loud until this moment. He was an absolute menace on defense, even dropped in a try of his own to contribute to the French largesse. Lopsided win, for sure. Ireland scoring 2 tries late as the French players kind of ran out of gas, but by denying them even a losing bonus point, France upended the standings and placed themselves squarely on top. So, next up, Scotland versus Wales, and even though Scotland led the whole way, I was, as my mom might say, as nervous as a polecat in a room full of rocking chairs. By the way, she would never say that. Naturally, Wales made it a contest late, and it actually looked in doubt for a while there. Regular listeners will know I always want Wales to be good, except when they're playing Scotland, and some late-game heroics got the visitors a losing bonus point right at the end. Just no dominant performances from the Scottish in sight. Like, in fact, the summer series, underwhelming. The autumn could be described charitably as meh. And, once again, they kind of keep not showing up, or they show up and then fade away on the biggest stage. Anyway, Blair Kinghorn, he looked pretty good. Duhan, he had some nice breaks. The comms described Pierre Schumann as playing, quote, like a vampire on a bag of blood, unquote. That's a phrase I'm not going to think too much about. Scotland defeated Wales 35-29, making it the first time they'd ever beaten the Welsh 3 times in a row in this competition, and they retained the Dottie Weir Cup along the way. Once again, I just had that terrible feeling that a potential golden age for Scotland is being frittered away, and I wonder when that window is finally just going to close. England versus Italy was our Sunday fixture. It was great to see Kappa Watso getting a lovely try to tie things up after about a quarter hour. The Italians were still within striking distance as we hit halftime. Very different in the second half, however, with the home team pulling away and shutting out the Azzurri for a good half hour there. England capped off their win with an insult-to-injury try from Ben Earl, who appeared to be pleased with himself, so that was nice. Final score at Allianz London, 47-24. That means next weekend, a lot is actually up in the air. I didn't feel like it would be earlier in the tournament, but here we are. Going into the final weekend, France are now on top of the table. England have leapfrogged Ireland into second place. Ireland are in third. Scotland are in fourth, where I've heard that before. Italy have amassed 4 points and are fifth. And winless Wales at the bottom with just 3 points. Ireland and England, they're going to be on a mission to secure bonus point wins on Super Saturday. Scotland will have a very tall order in front of them and will be hoping for a string of miracles in Paris. Switching down to the other hemisphere, we were on to round 2 of Super Rugby Opiki. Just a quick disclaimer here. I'm not going to do Game of the Week for this competition because there's always 2 games. I'm not giving preferential treatment to the men's comp. I just don't think it's fair to say one of 2 games is going to be the good one because they're always both going to be good. Anyway, rant over, just for the record. So, the actual games, things got started with the Blues at home to face the Chiefs Manawa. Holy cow, what a game. What a way to start the weekend. The Blues were playing catch-up all day long, finally got there, tied it up, only to see the Chiefs take back the lead. But then, how could it not be? It was Portia Woodman-Wycliffe shedding 3 would-be tacklers to slam one down in the corner. Started at center, by the way, on the weekend. Steals a win right at the end. She's like the hero in a sports movie. Just an incredible contest and a worrying start to the season for the Manawa Blues, sneaking past 24-22. After that, we had Matatu versus the Hurricanes. Pua. It's beginning to look grim for Pua early in the season, I have to say. Matatu came away winners 29-7 with Amy Duplessis having a monster of a game on both sides of the ball. Side note, it's kind of embarrassing how poor the coverage is of women's rugby. Like, where I live, most of the rugby coverage isn't great, but I'll give you an example. So, if you search for Matatu versus Hurricanes Pua, you'll see a result showing the final score is 29-7. If you go to the actual official website of OPK, you'll see the result listed as 17-0. If you look at the New Zealand news sites, you'll see that Matatu scored a, quote, 24-point victory over the Pua. Quote, it's just a shambles, and it's not a good look in 2025, but I have an idea. I could use a job right now, so maybe fly me down to the Aotearoa. I promise I will report the real score lines. I will double check and everything. By the way, 29-7 was the real score line, thanks to a lovely try from Lucy Jenkins with just over 10 minutes to play, and as I said, looks like maybe a tough year for the Canes. Switching laterally over to Super Rugby Pacific, we were on to round 4, another scintillating weekend. If you're not already following this competition, do yourself a favor. hop on board. There is plenty of room on my little bandwagon here, and it's always a heck of a ride. So anytime they play in Fiji, I want to be watching. This week, the Drua versus the Chiefs was coming to us from the island's second largest city, Lautoka, immediately making it our game of the week. We were at Churchill Park, where the Drua had won their last 6 and 7 of 9 overall. The Chiefs would be facing a fired-up home team, as well as torrential rain and the absence of Damian McKenzie. The conditions impacted the crowd's enthusiasm not one bit, and they were responding to every single thing that happened. It's an unbeatable atmosphere. But the Chiefs, they had come with a game plan. Keep it simple, rely on their kicking, don't get sucked into the style the teams tend to fall into when they visit Fiji. So a sliding, splashing try from Anton Leonard-Brown got them back to lead with about a half hour left, and the whole thing was on a knife edge all day. Here's an obscure stat for you, though. The Chiefs scored 49 points in their prior 2 games, but haven't scored 40-plus in 3 consecutive games since 1996. Didn't look like they'd be breaking that trend this weekend. The Drua held a 2-score lead with under 5 minutes left as the sun finally came out, adding a new level to the crowd's fever pitch. A final try by the visitors secured them a losing bonus point, but it was a 7th consecutive win for the Drua in Lautoka, 28-24. Another eye-popping match in Super Rugby. Is this the world's premier comp? So good. Anyway, around the horn for the rest of the weekend. The Blues versus the Brumbies. This was the second part of another doubleheader. 12 or 13,000 people on hand. Speaking of hand, bad hand injury saw Beauden Barrett leaving the pitch, the second former player of the year to go down on the same day. It was confirmed later to be broken. I read that the typical length of time for a broken hand is 6 to 8 weeks, maybe. So that could see Barrett returning like in May for the last couple of rounds, maybe. Anyway, yet another SRP match went down to the wire. Lonigan with a chance to steal a win at Eden Park with under a minute to go, and he nailed it. Brumbies winning 20-21, shocking result, and their first try of this sort in since 2013, as well as a bitter pill for Rico Ioane, who got his first try for the Blues since 2023. Unreal stuff. So, Mono Pacifica versus Hurricanes, that was next on my list. By the way, I've spent some time here complaining about how they don't seem to have a home stadium this year. They kind of have a new one in North Harbour Stadium. I've decided to just stop complaining about it. They seem happy at North Harbour. My streaming service never knows where it is. Sometimes the website has it wrong, but they seem happy, so I'm just going to shut up about it. Anyway, the game itself, another beauty, another high-scoring showcase where the Canes went up in the first half only to be overwhelmed in the second. The visitors got a late try to add respectability to the final tally, but this was just a great performance from the home team, winning 40-31 at wherever home is. Both teams are now 1-3 on the season, but it feels like they're trending in opposite directions for me. Waratahs versus Western Force gave us the widest margin of the weekend to that point. The Force really struggling on the road. The Taz mopped them up stem to stern, 34-10, and remained unbeaten on the year. A very odd time. At a very odd time for a Super Rugby fixture, we had the Crusaders hosting a very exciting Reds team, but, starting on a bit of a downbeat note. So before the Blues-Brumbies match, the comms mentioned the upcoming, what they called, quote, very bad weather, unquote. And yeah, I was checking on it. You had to feel for the families, especially for the Reds. Queensland got battered by Cyclone Alfred as early as Friday afternoon where I am. I had already read, quote, the storm winds ahead of the Cyclone Center have already caused havoc across the region. 240,000 are without power in Queensland and 39,000 in New South Wales, with power companies warning it could be days before supply is restored, unquote. And that was, of course, before it even made landfall. Thoughts and prayers to all those affected. It sounds like an absolute disaster. And if you'd like to learn more, of course, I did drop a link in the notes. Anyway, for the game itself, it was nice to see Cody Taylor back out there getting his first start after a hamstring injury and suiting up just 4 times last year. The Crusaders, they got up early. Sebo Reese getting a couple of tries before the visitors even got on the board. Will Jordan, he also added a pair of his own, and we had 7 tries overall by halftime. Levi Amua, he slammed the lid shut on the weekend with a final try. Crusaders getting their second win and a disappointing result for the guests, 43-19. So, lest we forget, this is also catch-up week in what I've dubbed the alt.urc, which just meant one game, Sharks hosting the Lions, after which our table would finally be even. Right at the top, they put a graphic on the screen telling us it was beach weather in Durban. And the pool at one end of the pitch was overflowing with kids as the adults continued to straggle into their seats. Side note, my spell check doesn't think the word straggle is a word, and I am suddenly filled with rage. Once again, Eben Etzebeth, nowhere to be found on the team sheet. I asked the listeners again, what's up with that? Where is Eben? Should we be worried? Should everyone else on Earth be worried? And speaking of team sheets, the Lions sent a squad that looked a bit underpowered to me, even giving a rare start to Monty Ross, who's old enough to be one of Danny Care's grandkids. The game itself, by the way, incredibly silly side note here, like, you can tell how hot it is down there mostly just by the light. Like, everyone, I mean, you can also tell because everyone's soaked in sweat before they even start playing, but everyone's shadow is like directly beneath them. I don't think I've ever seen my shadow directly beneath me in my lifetime. Like, it's always at an angle, and it's kind of cool in this because it's like, when the ball's in the air and it goes out of shot, you know exactly where it is because you can see a perfect oval on the field exactly underneath where it is. Anyway, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I think I just want to be back under a warm sun. So anyway, winter. It's enough already. We're done. Anyway, the ball, obviously a bit slippery. The turnover count was 11 conceded by the Sharks and 15 by the Lions with only 45 minutes gone on the clock. But there was something fun about this match. You know, the 9 for the Lions, Mornay Vandenberg, someone I'm not too familiar with, he was looking really good. I like his style. So we were tied with 10 minutes to go. Sharks down to 14 players. Hendricks doinked one off the left upright, but lo and behold, it swerved in for the lead, and that would be the difference, 25-22, for the surprising Sharks, just squeaking by to finish off a fixture originally scheduled for round 1. As I mentioned, this meant the table was now level, which means the complete logjam is now, fully visible. In fact, if anything, it looks more congested now than ever. Between 8th place Lions and 15th place Zebre, there's 4 points between them. It's madness, and I can't wait to see where it's all going. Meanwhile, over in France, the top 14 was actually on a break. Like, last week, I reported that it was going to be business as usual, but I guess I was wrong. You know what I should have done? Checked. How about that? Anyway, blessedly, the players actually got a break for a change. Good job, top 14. Your schedule often borders on the nutty. Sleep well, mes amis. So, back home in the United States, it was round 4 of the MLR. After the result for my guys that I basically flatly denied last week, I was looking for a major bounce back from my beloved Free Jacks as they faced the Seawolves of Seattle up in the Great Pacific Northwest for our Game of the Week. Little side note, some of you might not know this, but there are rivalry cups in the MLR. This is one of the best and one of the oldest, dubbed the Coffee Cup. My Free Jacks came into the match in possession. I'm saddened to report that it will be staying in Seattle for now. At the 78th minute, Malachi Esdale, he got over for a heartbreaking try, getting the Seawolves an almost literal last-minute come-from-behind win, 27-24. Seattle had 2/3 of the territory in the match. We had to make 52 more tackles than they did. So, anyway, I'm sure the coaches have some positive takeaways to work on and, make tweaks and improvements. But I'm not going to lie, this one hurt. Like, I really thought we had it wrapped up despite the numbers. So I'm a little bit numb as we head towards our home opener on Saturday. On Friday, elsewhere around the MLR, Miami, they dropped another one to Chicago, 18-31. DC kept stupidly named Anthem winless, though they're getting closer, 26-22. Utah lost comprehensively to Houston, 17-37. And San Diego remained the only unbeaten team in the MLR with a yeoman-like victory over the LA Bellends, 36-28. I was going to take a moment to sort of go over the table, but I noticed that it's incorrect on the website, or at least, let's say, not yet updated. Come on, interns, let's go. Well, by the music, you'll know it's time for this week's Diamond in the Ruck Award. This week, the award goes to Paul Boudahon. Mr. Boudahon, your play on both sides of the ball was the stuff of nightmares for the opposition. Your relentless work at the breakdown gave Les Bleus the ferocity you needed to take down the table leaders. Ireland came out with a ton of intensity this weekend, but you, sir, matched it and then surpassed it, bringing your team a seismic win in the Six Nations. Paul Boudahon, congratulations to you, for you are this week's Diamond in the Ruck. Well done, sir. So, that of course brings us to our updates and previews. Naturally, the headline is the grand final of the PWR, bringing us Gloucester Hartbury, the reigning champions, of course, and favorites. And they've somehow ended up playing an away final against Saracens. That almost happened last year in the MLR. San Diego were expected to be a part of the final they ultimately hosted, but if you recall, that's not how it turned out. Anyway, speaking of which, my Free Jacks open up Fort Quincy on Saturday to host NOLA. I can't wait. I can't believe it's less than a week away. And there's, of course, other less important action all around the MLR. The Men's Six Nations also concludes on Saturday with a million possible permutations, but I kind of feel like we know where it's going. Super Rugby versions Pacific and OPK are also back in action, but the URC and the top 14 are taking an extended break along with the Premiership. And also we're still a couple of weeks away from the Sevens madness in Hong Kong. So much rugby, so good. Well, my friends, that does it for another week, and I got to admit, I'm feeling it. Many of you will know life's a bit of a struggle at the moment. Not really mustering up my ordinary level of enthusiasm when there's so much rugby on offer, but as the saying goes, this too shall pass. So, to all of you across the globe, cheers, talk to you soon, and be well.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today.
No, it doesn't.
You want to tempt the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing?